This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 190, recorded on October 23rd, 2014. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska, and we post the show, of course, with world-class show notes out at the AverageGuy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show. Send me an email, Jim at theaverageguy.tv, or you can find me on Twitter at jcollison. Now you can call in those questions as well if you want to call them in, 402-478-8450, and that'll be in the show notes if you want to do it. Just call it in, leave a message, and we'll play it right here on the show. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. Find the links to this show and many other great podcasts out at thegeeksnetwork.com. Join us in chat, watch or listen live on YouTube or on Spreaker, and you can catch all the navigation over at theaverageguy.tv. All right, well, we've got a full Windows 10 show tonight. It's one of those things that I wanted to give it a couple, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever that is, and that with to get kind of let all the stuff that goes on around the launch and the preview, and everybody's writing stuff like crazy, and I kind of let some things shake out. And so we're going to talk a little Windows 10. I know a lot of folks have, but I've got two guys in here tonight that can really talk about it. And so let's first introduce, and new to the podcast, we've never had him on before, although I've podcasted him with him before, Rich Hay from Windows Observer. Rich, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Jim. Thanks.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, and of course you have your own podcast as well, Observed Tech, right?
That's correct. Yeah, a weekly podcast.
Yeah, and 150 shows. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you. Appreciate it.
You know, it's a lot of work to pump out a
yeah.
podcast every single week.
It has taken me, let's see, I've been retired from the Navy for 3 years. I started the show 2 years. It's taken me almost 5 years to get to 150 shows.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. It's crazy. And you're pretty much, do you pretty much get them every week, or is
I do, yeah.
50 out of 52?
Unless there's a unique situation, it's a weekly show.
Okay.
Comes out at the beginning of the week. Talk a lot of Windows news, tech news in general, but tends to focus very strongly towards Microsoft stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. So if you're a Microsoft guy and you want another podcast that you can listen to around that, Observe Tech, search for that or head out to windowsobserver.com and all his information. Rich, welcome. And then old friend of the show and been around a lot, and my best friend in Canada, John Zadler. John, how are you?
Wow, what an introduction. Thanks, Jim. I've been playing around with Windows 8, and it's a good time. Today, like I said earlier, I'm installing the 9860 build, and just before that, I actually did a refresh of the 9841. I did that, that built-in part called a refresh. So we'll talk about that later, how that went.
Yeah, sounds good. Rich, let's dive right into it. John mentioned 9860. That's the upgrade that's out and up. I saw you had some stuff on your side about it. And we'll come back to the 41 build, but talk a little bit. You have a whole, in one of your posts, you've got kind of a chronology, not necessarily a long update, but what's going on in that update?
Yeah, well, would you believe it's been just 3 weeks since they released the first build of Windows 10 technical preview, and we already have a significant update in our hands, and that 2 days ago. It's an element of Microsoft that we've never seen at this kind of pace over the years, especially with Windows. Because Windows back in the beta days, you used to test it. It was a year and a half, 2 years of testing before it hit the streets and became public and first service pack, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But since Windows 8 really, Microsoft and Windows Phone, they started to iterate stuff much quicker. We see updates now on apps every week. And here we are, 3 weeks after the release of a technical preview, which really could be a day-to-day system. 9841 was very solid. I used it as a daily driver. We've got 9860, which visually is not a massive change, but what I think the post that they wrote was 7,000 under the hood differences and changes that were incorporated in that.
Mm-hmm.
The feedback level that they're getting for this build of Windows. In fact, during today's Microsoft's earnings call, Satya Nadella referred to it as the version of Windows will be the most collaborative version of Windows ever, because of the way they're taking the feedback and getting the feedback, both from telemetry, which they've been doing since Windows 7, but also people. Over 250,000 pieces of feedback have been fed into them through just the app they have there in Windows 10. It's unreal, and it's a solid OS. In my opinion, this is what Windows 8 should have been. I think Windows 8, although I've loved Windows 8 and I've used Windows 8 from day one, I think Windows 10 is going to bring together elements that everybody really liked from Windows 7 and some elements of Windows 8, 8.1, and put them together in a system that's going to recognize your hardware. You know, it's going to be touch knowledgeable or non-touch and adapt itself to that. And I think what they're doing now should have been done 2 years ago. I mean, really, we would not have the impression of Windows 8 that's out there now, the hate, you know, even though people never used it, rather than, I think this, if they'd have come out with this, we wouldn't be talking in the same way, I don't think.
Yeah, but you know what? It's done at this point.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah, that's history.
And they're getting really good reviews. Rich, let me ask you, what have you installed it on so far? What kind of hardware are you doing? VM?
I've done 2 hardware installs, dual booting it on my podcaster PC, which is the PC I'm on now, but I'm not on Windows 10. I'm actually on Windows 7. I'm running it dual boot on my big desktop with the dual monitor, which is where I work from every day. And I did a virtual machine install as well, but apparently this 9860 build is having some issues with upgrading in a virtual machine from what I was reading. But so I've run it on a couple different pieces of hardware.
Okay. And John, what are you running in the? You're upgrading to 40, or you installed 41 at this point, right?
Yeah, I had originally started with Windows 8, then the 8.1, and then I installed the technical preview. But with Windows 8.1, I had bought that the Media Center pack. Yeah, so which had Media Center built in. And one of the things after, I noticed in the technical preview, they still had that option where you could, anytime was like anytime upgrade or something like that. You could put in your key and then it went. And so that functionality was still there where it installed the Media Center. But then the story online was that you wouldn't get any Windows updates for the technical preview, which I did get. But the problem I didn't get was now when this new build became available, one of the options in their menu is they say, like check for a preview build, and that would error out. So the only way to clear that out is I said, you know what, let me do one of those new thing that's came to Windows 8 was the refresh, where you can reinstall your OS either completely or with your apps still there. So I said, yeah, okay, try that refresh. And that came through wonderful. I was surprised how clean it was. All my apps, like not just my software, not just like the apps from the store, but like I had the Office 2010 installed there and some server stuff and whatever. All that stuff just came up nicely. So now I was back to the Windows 10, like the original 9841. And then when I click now on the preview for the preview build, the newer one, that one is started installing. So in a way, I was able to go back, even though I have a home server with all my backups and stuff like that to save me on a in case I mess something up. It was nice to see that even though I installed the Media Center app, I was able to recover from that. So it's good.
Rich, do you know? So 4.1 is the original preview. Is that still the only one available on TechNet or out there to download? Do I have to download that one first and then upgrade to 6.0? Is that what I need to do?
If you did not start with 9841, you have to go out and get 9841 and install that ISO, which is available from the Windows Insider website, and then do the in-OS upgrade to 9860. And it makes sense that they're pushing this. What they say, 1 million people have signed up for the preview. So this is the method Windows is going to update it with in the future. And it's certainly during the technical preview. You're going to be able to check that spot that John was talking about check for a new preview build, and it finds it, and it's called a Delta upgrade. So it only downloads the elements that have been changed in the OS. Now this was a big Delta upgrade. It was like 2.5 gigabytes of program to be downloaded, and they need to clean up that interface a little bit. I think they don't give you a good indicator of the download except for the spinning dots. So you don't get a progress indicator to say how far things are along. And for some, that might freak them out, and they might want to restart. And in fact, during the 9860 upgrade, there's a moment, the first reboot, you go to black screen, and the computer does not come completely on, but the lights are on, and it's working on the hard drive, and about 2 minutes later, it reboots back to a screen, And that's a little disconcerting when you give your OS over to an upgrade, but it went well, and it took me 45 minutes. You were talking about that post I did. It took me 45 minutes to start the download of 9860 and be back on my desktop working with all my stuff in place, nothing missing. It was extremely smooth for a technical preview to do that upgrade in place.
I'm showing right now on the screen, so if you go to Update and Recovery and the Windows 10 Preview, and since I've already upgraded, it's going to look a little bit different, but this is where you go, where it says Preview Builds.
That's right.
And if you select on that, we're going to talk about some of the new options that are there, so we'll hold that for a little bit later. But
Okay.
that's where you'll see it right there. It'll say Update Build, and you click on that, it's going to download it and install everything for you.
That's right. Now, there's a default setting in 9841 that if you don't get that cue, let's say you're not somebody who just follows this and wasn't bated breath yesterday or day before waiting for 9860 to hit, it will do an update at 2 a.m. in the morning and download it and do the update and reboot the computer.
Okay, good to know. Yeah, it's coming, and we'll talk some more about it, but just a little preview to that. I mean, this is what's cool. This is a modern, what we're looking at is a modern interface here.
That's right.
And yet you can click it into a window. So we'll talk about that a little bit kind of coming up here. So let's hold off on that and bring it back. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit on 41. I'll just talk about what came with the Windows 10 preview. And of course, everyone was anticipating this, and that's the new Start menu. Rich, talk a little bit about, you've probably talked more about this than any of us at this point. Talk a little bit about the new Start menu, what that means to you.
Well, in Windows 8, when Windows 8 first came out, the thing that really threw a lot of people was the start screen, is that whether you were on touch hardware or non-touch hardware, you got that start screen as your default. There was no other choice. And although that start screen was very functional with the mouse and keyboard, many people saw that more as a touch interface. So it wasn't until 8.1 that the option came that we could default boot to desktop. So what they've done here, and many people will recognize this, that left side of that new Start menu in Windows 10 is very Windows 7-ish. It's got the search block. Now, most of us probably used Windows 7 in the same exact way. We'd hit the Windows key, type in the name of the program we were looking for, and when it appeared in the search, just like you're doing right there, we would go to the program. Very rarely, I might have a few shortcuts on my taskbar or desktop, but that's how I found most of the software I wanted to use on Windows 7. When Windows 8 came, there was no visual clue to that. So, but as we know, Windows 8, you just start typing on the start screen and it happened. And I showed many people at Best Buy when I was working there as a Microsoft consultant who would say, oh, I hate Windows 8. Don't you have something else? And I'd show them a few things like searching the start screen, and that would ease their concerns a lot. But what they've done here is they've melded the two. So you've got your Windows 7 style menu, which is completely configurable. The very top thing where your name is, you've got the option there to click on the power button, and you'll get your sleep shutdown restart. If you click on your name, your username, you actually get the log off, change account picture that we used to get in the top right of the Start menu on Windows 8. So you have those options there. And then the next segment down is configurable. Those are items you can pin there. So if you were, say, down in the lower part, yeah, there you go. You can pin it to Start, taskbar, or remove it from there. And then down here, you've got your all apps and recently used stuff. So this stuff, you can pin from here. You can uninstall just like we could on the Start screen. So you have a lot of options here to get stuff to your Start. So if you pin to Start right now, it's going to appear on the right side in this configurable Start menu. Grab that. You can drag it around. You can configure this however you want. And then if you grab the top of this whole menu window, yeah, you can change the size of the tiles as well and make it fit the way you want it to fit. And these are still live. So these tiles are just like on the Windows 8 and 8.1 Start screen. They dynamically update as they're displayed. Now, if you grab the top of that menu window there, Jim, and
grab the top.
all the way up at the top, like you're grabbing the edge of the window.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, now you can drag, and you can make it tall. You can bring it down and make it wide. You can't do the side. The only option is up and down there. There you go.
Oh, there you
go.
So okay.
Now the only issue I really have right now with this is that when you click into the desktop, for instance, that goes away. So you lose your live tiles. You don't have them visible. I actually wrote a post a couple weeks ago that live tiles should become the new gadgets. That we should be able to pin a live tile
that's a good idea.
desktop as we do. Remember gadgets in Windows
Yeah.
Vista?
Oh yeah, they were over here on the right hand side. You bet.
And Windows 7 allowed you to actually not have to have them in that bar. So it's extremely configurable, just like 8 and 8.1 was, but it brings back the familiarity, I think, that a lot of people like that Windows 7 had, and it's not that jarring kind of start screen right in your face the minute you hit the Windows key. You're actually getting something more familiar. And so I think this is going to be more attractive to people. And this is all about the enterprise. This is all about the corporations and getting them to upgrade to the next version of the OS, because they didn't want to go with the start screens and stuff like that. And then the other thing I was thinking of was the fact that the option is there that you could choose right now. It'd force you to log out, but you could right-click the taskbar and make the start screen your default. And it's going to have this thing called Continuum. They demoed this during the Windows 10 event in San Francisco. That if you tap the screen, it will prompt you, do you want to go to touch mode? And if you put a keyboard on and you start typing or using a mouse, it will prompt you if you want to go to non-touch mode.
That's a great idea.
Set defaults. And again, that's exactly what I think Windows 8 should have been. A little more. That's what people expected. People expected it to adjust to the hardware that it was on. So I think it's terrific what they've done and where they're headed with this. I'm really excited. It's very much a mishmash of our Windows 8 experience, 8.1. And so you don't have all of your interface there. It's very much a rough build, although it's very usable.
Yeah, John, any thoughts on Start for you? Anything in there that you're glad or you like in there?
Well, I like the idea where it gives you, like in Windows 7, sometimes you're saying, I'm looking for something where it is, like disk cleanup or something, and you're kind of, well, again, habits, right? I mean, your habits can always change to be new habits, but like the old habit was like, you went to Windows 7, you went to accessories, system tools, and you found what you were looking for. But when they came out with Windows, 8 and 8.1, it's like, how do I find those? Do I find them on the start menu? There was a little down arrow, you had to click there and kind of look for it. But obviously, the easiest trick is, like we said before, is just start typing. Microsoft, that should have been their new logo when they came out with Windows 8. Should have been just start typing. Like hit the Windows key and just start typing what it is. Whatever voice recognition or disk cleanup, or just start typing. My sister, she's in her late 60s, and she was always going from a Windows XP machine, right? So that's like embedded in her head for the past 40 years, or however long Microsoft had that one, and. Then she went to a Windows 8 machine, so it's like, can you put XP on there or whatever? And it's like, look, just hit the Windows key and start typing what it is you're looking for, email or note or whatever, and the stuff will come up. And also what's nice is, for I think these Metro apps, people maybe who are getting older and you're having a hard time seeing, it's like, it's nice when the mail app is so large, and some of these apps, they're big, so it seems a little bit easier, and they're less, complicated, less, graphics and to shock these older people and stuff, or maybe anybody. It's more simple, So I like the fact, and like you had mentioned, is here. I think Microsoft, because of their event that they did last month, there is. Because they want to push this, the new build to enterprise, and people are used to Windows 7 or Windows XP with that start menu. So I guess that's why all that traffic is kind of going there. So they're bringing that back. So I like it, and I like some of the other little candies that they're throwing at us now too.
Yep. There's some really neat. In fact, you just had something pop up on the screen in the lower right corner. It was a little blue notification that said, "How do you like switching between modern apps and desktop apps?" That's how Microsoft is collecting feedback on this build. In fact, right there it is. And You're showing off one of the additions to the 9860 build, and that's a notification center now for Windows. If you've been on a phone, whether it be an Android or an Apple or Windows phone now with 8.1, you've got a notification center. That pop-up popped up and disappeared before we got a chance to talk about it. You were able to go back to Notification Center and see what you missed. So now if you click on that, it will open up Windows Feedback, and it will ask you the question. And this is how Microsoft's collecting feedback. As you do different things, it's triggering this for a quick data collection. Did you like it? Did you not like it? So you can select any one of those buttons about switching, using modern apps on your desktop, and many of you may have noticed, and then it will ask you for more info if you have more info, but it's windowed. It's not taking up the whole screen. So now you can overlay windows with modern apps. In Windows 8 and 8.1, modern apps could be split and share the screen, but they can never overlay or anything like that. And now these are like windows in the normal Windows 7 style of Windows.
You know what I find surprising there is, I don't know if it's just my build, is like when I say when I try to put those modern apps there on the desktop, I can only shrink them like a bit. I can't bring them, what is it, horizontal? Horizontally, I can't shrink them, like resize them. I can resize them.
I had some issues with the display stuff as well, and I don't know whether that's just a hardware limitation, drivers that just aren't there for Windows 10, or whether it's an actual issue with the build. But one thing to remember is that all these apps that we're downloading in the Windows Store, although they're universal, they are going to need some tweaking because of the newer OS and stuff like that as well. So there's going to be those kind of hiccups. I think like the command prompt window, I got a buddy online who said he can make it full screen, but I couldn't get it to go more than half the screen. So if you do command.com or search for command.
Oh, I'm on the wrong keyboard.
Oh.
I got.
Yeah, especially I heard something about that. I heard about that command.com. Like apparently you can do cut and paste.
Now
right?
cut and paste. Before you couldn't do it with you could not do cut and paste. You always had to go in and right click and do paste. Now you can do it with Control V, Control C.
Right inside the screen there, right?
Yeah, from inside. So even though command prompt's getting an update in here.
Yeah, and so we'll just show that here real quick.
Yeah, we all want our little Windows XP, history lessons there. Go back to.
There you go.
And Control V. You used to have to right click in that window and choose paste. You couldn't do it with a keyboard shortcut.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we covered some snap improvements in that, right? I've been snapping the windows around. Anything? So we brought two screens up there, and I snapped them side to side that way to get that one. Are there other options for me now?
Well, it will do a quad. If you have enough, one of the things it will do, keep that app open. Open up like the Windows Store and one other modern app, just to have something open there. And let's see.
Another modern app. Hold on. Is IE considered a modern app?
No, it's not. There is no modern version of IE in the Windows 10 technical.
We'll close that.
There is no full screen. In 9841, there was a cheat that you could get the full screen, but in 9860, it's gone.
Okay, so I've got four open.
So if you take one and snap it,
okay. Now these
minimize everything else. Minimize everything else.
All right.
So if you minimize everything, and you could have still done that on the taskbar as well. That old function's still there for right-click, minimize all, or show.
Oh yeah, or back here too.
But if you pull up one of those modern apps, like the food and drink one, and you grab the title bar and drag that to one side of the window, and let it go. Why didn't it prop up the... normally what it was doing is it will pop up on the other side the rest of your apps to give you a choice for snapping them. I don't know why yours isn't doing that.
Okay.
But yeah, what will happen is if you grab, it will automatically pop up everything else that's open and let you choose what you want to share. Oh, that's kind of your Alt tab, right?
Right. That's kind of this new
that's the option
task view, right? Is what they're calling.
That's right. It's called Task View. And you see the Add a Desktop here. You now have the ability to add additional workspaces. They're not so much virtual desktops as they're simply workspaces. So you can have one screen set up for work kind of browsing, or you can have one set up for personal, and you can easily, when you do Alt-Tab, it will cycle through everything that's open on every desktop. And the animation they added in 9860 is kind of cool. So if you open up an extra desktop,
okay, hold on. I got to figure out how to do that again.
You can hit the button over here on the left by the search. Yeah, that one.
Okay, so I've got three open.
Switch to one of the other desktops. Unfortunately, right now, you can't move apps between desktops.
All right.
I'll point out a couple things. You see the light bar that's at the bottom of those icons on the taskbar?
Down here?
That indicates that that app is open on another desktop. If you were to click one of those, it will switch. So go ahead and see it switched back to your... Are you running this in a virtual machine?
No, it's on a laptop.
It is, okay. So now go back. You got to go back to your desktop because you didn't open an app there. So do over here,
Yeah.
I'm pointing at my screen like
Yeah, I know. It's like
the two little tiles that are stacked on top of each other next to Chrome.
yeah. One
Over on
sec.
the
There we
left.
go. There we
I
go.
mean, I
Okay.
use
I gotta,
mouse. What is
I
it?
gotta get used to that.
Now on this desktop,
Yep.
which is blank,
Which one? Oh, the blank one here?
just pick the blank one.
Yep.
I open up an app here, so don't open up one you've already opened, because something I learned, if Internet Explorer is open on one desktop and you're on another desktop and click a link, it shifts to that desktop, which I think they should change. So now your people are there, right? So you can open that up.
Well, it's there, but it's not. It's like
it's acting up. It may be just not compatible well with.
Yeah. So here we are in the preview, right?
Yeah, that's part of the preview.
This is part of the beautiful preview.
Perfection.
Yeah.
You can open Internet Explorer there, actually. There you go. So now, if you were to hit Alt-Tab, all right, now you're cycling through everything that's open everywhere, and you can easily switch desktops and apps and stuff like that. And it will let you move between them no matter which desktop it's on. The Alt-Tab, the new task view, will let you switch through everything that's open on your computer. Now, granted, if you open up 5 or 6 desktops with a bunch of stuff running and you don't have a real powerful system, this is not going to be a good experience.
Yeah, I can feel my CPU running. I can feel the heat coming out of the slide.
I find it pretty nifty. I run a dual monitor setup, and so as I'm playing with this during the day and I'm working, I actually use one desktop for the browsers I have open connected to our headquarters in Sioux City, Iowa for the help desk and our key manager and things like that, and I have another one open up with my personal stuff on it that I keep up with during the day, and it works really well.
And how many desktops can I get going at a time?
You know, I don't know if there's a max or something like that. John, do you know?
No, I haven't played around with it.
I haven't tried to max it out and see what it does.
No, that's interesting.
I would assume that the physical limit would be the capabilities of the system, but I don't know that it kicks you off or stops at a certain number. I mean, you've got how many going there now? 1, 2, 3,
I have 4 now. Yeah, I have 4 going.
And will it let you add another one?
Let's try.
That plus sign?
Yeah, sure. There's a 5th.
Oh, there's 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 desktops.
So they're basically just more space to put stuff and not have them on the same screen. And what's great is no matter which desktop you're on, if the app is open on another desktop, you'll get that little kind of highlighted bar below it, like the Internet Explorer icon has got. And if you click it, it will take you to that workspace, that desktop.
Yeah. No, that part works.
It's as if you're on one great big desktop. They're not all on your screen at the same time.
Yeah.
I like that concept. So when this was rumored, they thought virtual desktops. Everybody was thinking virtual desktops like virtual PC, but it's actually just a workspace and a space to hold apps that are run. They still run. Everything still functions. You access them as you need them.
Yeah. No, very cool. All right. Well, so then if I want to get rid of those, so say I start shutting, will not save. So
if you hit that little task view button again, I think that's how you do it. And there's your X.
Just go down and.
It's not unlike closing Windows for previews on the taskbar.
And then it shows you the preview. So when I scroll over it, it shows you the preview of that window.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty nice.
It's a pretty nifty thing. I can see where this would be very useful for people who are doing multiple tasks and like to have their things kind of cleaned and separated. Especially, I've been on dual screens for so long that I've always worked with basically two desktops. But for a lot of people who are single desktops, or let's say Surface, there's something to be said for having extra desktops with everything maximized that you just quickly Alt-Tab through and grab what you're working on.
Yeah, it's funny because it took me, as we were talking about that, it took me about 35 to 60 seconds to kind of like, okay, where is stuff? When you start doing it. And now it's like, okay, I just come over here, pop, click on that.
You know what? Let me check something real quick because they talked about keyboard shortcuts in one of the blogs, and I can't remember if there's a keyboard shortcut. Let me look real quick.
Okay.
I can't remember if there's a keyboard shortcut for making a new desktop. I'm sure there will be.
John or Rich. John. Well, Rich is looking for that. You've messed with Server 10 to this point. Right? You've installed the technical preview of Server 10.
That's right. Yeah.
And the UI certainly doesn't have all this stuff in it right now. Or does
Yeah,
it?
well, it has the same thing. The only thing is is if you log in with the administrator, you don't get the Metro stuff. You know, the Metro, like we said before with the start menu. You know how you have
Right.
those Metro apps on the right side. Well, they're not there. But if you do log in as a user, you create user accounts and then you log in as a user, then those apps will be there. So because like we've said the other day is sometimes these Metro apps they don't really make sense on the server. So it's like let's try to get rid of it or slowly get rid of it or just make it like something in the background and go from there. But yeah, it's and then they don't have like you would have to add like what they call the desktop experience if you want to be able to have the like the My Computer icon on the because I think if you go on your desktop and you right click it says personalized, then you can say which tabs you want there, like My Computer, recycling bin, user files, and a few of those. Some of that stuff is not there with the server because it's basically a server. It's not meant to be like your full on use it as a monitor that you're interacting with. It's just go to the server to do server stuff. But I saw that they did allow me to install the desktop experience, so it's a
Cool.
little.
Rich, did you
Yeah,
find
I found that. It's actually one of the links from October 3rd, just a couple days after the first preview version came out. But you can do Windows key, Control, and D to create a new virtual desktop. They're calling it virtual desktop. And if you wanted to close what you're on, you just do Windows Control F4.
Okay, hold on. Let's
and
actually
then
do
they've
that.
got switching is the Win Control left or right, so you can switch to desktops that way, or you can use the little shortcut button they've put on the taskbar.
So let's go back. Hold that because
Okay.
we've got. Let's get on a desktop here.
Yep. So you're on a desktop there.
Right.
So if you
I'll-
were to
we'll
do
open up.
Windows Control and D,
And there's your new desktop.
there's your new desktop, and you can see the apps that are open, and you'll still get previews. So if you were to hover over those, you still see the preview of the app and be able to interact with the app. And if you clicked on it, it would take you to that other desktop. Now, if you wanted to go back to the desktop that you just created, you could do
hold on,
Windows key, Control, and then left or right, and it will switch you between those without having to go through that little icon. So
There you go.
so keyboard junkies, they are giving you lots of love in Windows 10.
And that's not like left and right. That'll just continue to cycle through.
It'll just cycle,
do
yeah. But
left
if you've got
key, left
multiple
key.
ones, it will work from left to right, I think, depending on
Right.
what you started with.
So it's like to the left, to the left, to the. It's a bad joke. No, cool. And what was the third one? There was another key.
To close a virtual desktop. So if you're on a virtual desktop, so if you go to that other one you had, so if you do the Windows, yeah, there you go. So if you were to do Windows key, Control F4.
Now that's a combination.
Yeah.
F4.
And because Alt F4 is basically close a window. In fact, people sometimes will tell people that
I guess that worked.
shortcut to do something and make them close out of an app.
Mm-hmm.
But so that one works as well. And then, how did you get that right there? Oh, you're actually in Alt View, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Alt Tab.
Yeah. I just.
Yep. So it's handy. Right now, you can't modify those two keys on the left, the search and the desktop one. They're kind of permanent, it seems. There's a lot of people that are hoping that they give those as options because keyboard junkies won't like them taking up the taskbar space. And some people like to have those little shortcuts there.
Oh, down here. So this.
Yeah, down on the left. You
the
can't do.
search.
If you right-click on those two icons, you can't do anything with them. You can't unpin them. You can't.
That one and this one.
Yeah, all you can do is switch between them.
Yeah.
And now that search is interesting because, as you might know, in Windows 8 and 8.1, there was a built-in system search added. I think it was as part of 8.1. This is the same thing. It does a system search and a internet search. So those are, yeah, there you go. So you're actually not in modern IE here. You're simply in the search app, which is basically rendering in an IE window.
I was gonna say it looks an awful lot
Browse
like
anywhere else. You can browse in the search options, but so if you were to click one of those links, it opens up IE.
Well, and in this case, I have Chrome installed, so it just
Chrome is your default, whatever your default browser is.
Yep.
So, but that window that you were just searching in is a render from IE.
Okay.
What is
This
missing
one,
in the preview right now is modern IE. And 9841, there was a PowerShell cheat that you could do to run a full screen browser. In 9860, that's gone. It's broke. So I do hope it's coming. Not that it's coming back. For me, and can you open up File Explorer? I'll show you this. This gives me a lot of hope. That's that third. There you go.
Yeah.
Check this out. When you maximize that, can you bring? Where's your? It's not displaying the menu. So if you, yeah, how do you? There you go. So if you make that, can you pin that? Yeah, over on the right-hand side under the X, there's a pin to make that stay. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what you're seeing here is this new thing, this recent files down below. That shows you all the recent. That's kind of like as if you were looking. This is stuff you've recently accessed, which I like a lot. A lot of people are complaining about this, quote unquote, privacy-wise. But click on one of those text files and just highlight it. Don't double-click it to open it. Where is it gone? Oh, there you go. Click on the Share tab up at the top. So this is what would be over on the left.
On the left, Share.
Yeah, by Home, up
by Share.
File, Home,
no,
Share.
You're right. Gotcha. Yep.
Look, there's a Share icon in a desktop program. So if you click on that, it's going to
we've seen this before.
Share charm, which eventually is going to go away. This is one of the things that is not going to remain as it is in Windows 10 eventually. But there's a Share charm in a desktop program. And for me, I've always wanted that in 8.1. I don't know about you, John, but I've always wanted to be able to share from desktop. I prefer desktop IE. But to get links to my OneNote that I do for my podcast, I got to use the Share charm, which is only available through Modern IE. And that's missing right now, but I think this is an indication that sharing is going to be integrated across the board. It won't matter whether you're in a modern app or you're in a desktop program, sharing is going to be available, which I think is
nice.
Great.
That'd be very nice.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, cool. Well, excellent.
Sharing is nice.
Keyboard shortcut, Windows key and C, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
You can still get to the charms bar, but if you were to mouse up there to the top right or bottom right as you normally would have, you won't get those.
Mm-hmm. So let's turn that off.
It can't be activated by the mouse. Now I will show you this. Open up one of your modern apps just to look at, like your.
We'll open the store. Where is it?
What they've done here, and this is kind of where the future is headed, is you can see you've got the new title bar across the top, and over on the left there are 3 little dots, which we've all become accustomed to, right? Windows Phone uses 3 dots to indicate a menu. Mm-hmm. This looks very familiar to that charms bar. You got app commands. If you were to click app commands, it'll open up the bar across the bottom. All right. So there's that. Go back to the dots again. Search will bring up the search on the charms bar. Mm-hmm. Share will bring up the share charms bar. You have print. If you had a printer configured, you could project this immediately to a projection device. Settings will open up the charms bar, and then you can go full screen still. So you can actually get rid of the Chrome being the kind of navigation around it, and make it full screen once again. This is again where I think most modern apps are going to go, and eventually that charms bar on the right side is going to disappear as we know it.
It's like the charms have all been moved into this menu, right?
Exactly. And right now, clicking on one of them, say click on Share, for instance, it will open up the Share charm on the right side.
Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one.
Or the search charm.
Yeah.
In the future, that's going to be different because they say that's going away. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. I don't want to lose my shareability. I tell you what, I use that shareability daily, multiple times, especially when I'm browsing topics and I'm looking for stuff for the podcast. I send stuff to OneNote, and I use that share charm, especially with IE, a lot. So
yeah, very cool. No, I love Rich. This is what I love. I love having this control on the desktop in these modern apps.
I agree.
Close it out and
8.1, but it was still a full screen app, and you had to mouse up there to get that kind of title bar to drop down, so you had the minimize and the X button.
Now, have you tried Windows 10 on any touch device at all to this point?
I don't have a touch device to try it on.
Yeah, then I think after Summit, I've been saving my money for Summit to see what kind of deals they were gonna offer us, and then I really want to get some kind of full touch device to use, and then I'll pair it with my Bluetooth keyboard and carry it with me as kind of a tablet / laptop. I just haven't decided what I'm going to do. I'm eyeing the Surface. Let's talk about the Surface with you real quick. because you're talking about your Surface earlier. Where are you at with the Surface 3 at this point? At least either an opinion, or have you tried it? Do you own it? Those kinds of things.
I've not bought one. I've certainly been in the store and tried them out, and talked to a lot of people and read. I'm on a Surface 2, which I absolutely love. It's a great
Pro or the Surface 2?
Huh?
The RT version.
Surface
right?
2, the RT version, and it's an excellent companion device. And I travel with it. I can do my job on it full time if I needed to. Surface Pro 3, it had some growing pains. Although today's Microsoft's financials, they announced $908 million in revenue from Surface, and that's all Surfaces. So that's the Pro 3 to the original Pro, the RT versions. So in one quarter, $908 million, they showed their first profit on Surface ever. So the Surface Pro 3, look at what they did 3 weeks ago. They went to Adobe Max. Satya Nadella was there with the president of Adobe, and they showed off some of these features, and they handed one to every person that was there at the Adobe Max conference. And they say that was the biggest cheer that went up. Now, creatives have always kind of been tied to Macs, to Apple products. Everybody who does photos or creativity stuff is always on a Mac, right? Well, here's a group of people who have been using that Apple hardware for so long, and they're getting their hands on these Surface Pro 3s. Now, they've had some growing pains with the Pro 3s. They've had some Wi-Fi issues, and which they're working on. They say there's an update coming in a few weeks to continue to address the Wi-Fi issue. But that's typical growing pains with any piece of hardware. I mean, even when Surface RT first came out, Jim, you remember, there were issues, and it had its growing pains and stuff, and Surface 2 had its share of issues. But they've really become very tweaked in, great pieces of hardware. And I think Surface Pro 3 is going to do the same exact thing. So if I had the money to spend on it right now, I'd probably be all over Surface Pro 3 if they were offering us a great deal. That'd be very tempting. I splurged and got my Xbox
exactly
One last month, so
I saved some money, and I was hoping they'd give us a break, and then I would, the difference I'd pay the difference. But at this point, man, it's a tough. For me, it's tough to cover for the remainder on that.
Well, you're looking at $1,400 or so, right, just to get it and the keyboard for the i5.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So it is an expensive device. There's no doubt about it. It is a premium device too. I'll give it that. I mean, if you've used the Surfaces before, so you know the quality of them and how well they are. And Microsoft stands behind them. A fellow MVP of mine, Sean Keen. He was on Twitter and everything, Lieutenant Commander Keen on Twitter. He had a Surface Pro 3 that wouldn't dual boot. He could not boot from USB. And he's had it for a while. He took it back to the store, and they swapped him out for a brand new one. So they're definitely supporting the hardware. So
yeah. Well, I was hoping to have one in my hands by the time we came back from Summit. That was my hope. I'd still have to see. I may still just save and wait for it.
Yeah, I hear you. And who knows? We might get surprised. There might be something.
But that's why I'm holding hope.
Outside hope.
Hey, one of the things I was trying to get back to while we were talking about the Surface, and by the way, if you're new to my show, we have a whole Surface show on the Geeks Network. So if you head over to surfacegeeks.net, Dave does a show around the Surface and Windows Phone. So don't forget about that as well. We've moved most of that off of my show and onto his at this point. So we're making an exception here. I'm a Windows MVP, so I can talk about this here, and I want to talk about it here. We have gotten away from Windows on this program, but just a little bit, just not talking about it all the time. There was a day, Rich, we talked about it all the time here, and I'll actually, if you're knee deep in it, I'll actually recommend your podcast as well, because you cover it. You cover it very, very well. One of the new options is we talk about some things that were coming, and I was trying to get to that window, the Windows Update. It seems broken at this point. I may have to reboot that PC.
What's that?
But that's the fast and slow options now on the 60 build. So that's in that Windows Update and Recovery, right?
Yeah, it's Update and Recovery. What they've done with 9860 in Microsoft, and I shared a picture of this. They have it on one of the blogs, and I just closed those blogs. But in 9860, they're giving Windows insiders, people who have signed up to get the technical preview, an option to either update at a normal pace, which they've labeled slow, or a fast pace. And when Microsoft tests Windows, the way they do it now is they have a small group of people who test the initial build that gets is marked in whatever method they use. The build is ready for testing. Their computers get a prompt for it. It gets downloaded, and they get the new build, and then they start working on it. If there's no showstopper bugs, then it goes to a slightly large, they call them rings. It goes to a slightly larger ring of people. And then if it passes through that ring of people, it then hits a third ring of people. All this is within the Windows operating systems group at Microsoft. And then Windows Insiders were in that fourth ring of people. So it had to go through 3 levels of testing a build did before that build was said okay to go to the Insiders. So 9860, for instance. 9860, however long ago, got that small group, got pushed out to the slightly larger group, and then the Windows operating systems group, and then to us as Windows Insiders. Well, what they're talking about doing is adding another ring in between the Windows operating systems group and the Insiders, where you'll get builds that won't be necessarily going to Insiders, or you'll get them early, so you can really get newer. It's when you go breaking kind of builds like that, you run the risk of having issues, and I got to reiterate this, and I know John as a server guy knows this. Previews are previews. They break things, they don't work, you can have problems, and you could risk losing your data. It's why they tell you don't put it on a, what do they call it? Oh, what's the term they use? A production system. Don't put it on a production system. A lot of people have. I've read it on Twitter. A lot of people have gone full-blown Windows 10. That's risk. They're running a risk of losing their data. Now, the nice thing we have with OneDrive, we have syncing data between computers, and it's fairly quote-unquote safe, but it is risky business. I mean, people saw that with Windows Phone. Remember when Windows Phone 8 got the 8.1 and they didn't push it because of the BitLocker issue with some devices? And people had to reset to go back to 8 to get the 8.1 update when it finally came out because they hadn't fixed that. Same thing applies here, so you have to be careful. But Windows Insiders get a choice now to get inside one more ring level and get builds on a slightly faster pace than normal than what we're, and fast is relative. 3 weeks from one build to another, to me that's unreal.
Yeah, that's slow. I hate to see what fast is.
We got builds that often. When I was on Vista and Windows 7, I don't think we got beta builds once but every 2 months or so, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. So it's unreal how quickly they're giving us stuff.
Hang tight for me 1 sec. I know John's got to bail and go pick up his son. John, any final thoughts before, as we cut you off? Any final thoughts that you've got on the preview?
The only thing I would say is I noticed, I did hear that once you get to 9860, some people were having issues with some kind of letters. You know, every other letter was missing or some text was missing on the screen. So like right away, even though it just came out, go to Windows Update. You know, go to the updates and download. See if there's some updates there. That would be my advice.
There's a fix for that actually.
Cool. There you go. Okay, nice chatting with you guys.
John, thanks for jumping in, man. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Rich, I've got just a few minutes left myself, and I'm going to actually bring that. I'm going to bring that box back in. Hold on, I can mute it. There we go. Because it did fail on me at this point when we were trying to get into those update and recovery settings. Let me share the screen so you don't have to see my ugly mug twice. It's bad enough as it is. Let's switch it over here. Hold on. We'll minimize Chrome. Let's see if we're back. So I wanted to show that update and recovery. And when I did this the last time, so I should be able to go to recovery options. Good, it's working again, right? So this is full screen with that. So what happened the last time, whatever we did, and all that stuff we were clicking and moving around, something went wrong. And when I tried to go into the recovery again, it was broke. Again, it's a build, right? This is an early test build.
That's right.
But this is that preview, those preview builds there, and here's the new option, right? Choose how fast you like new preview builds. Set slow by default. Yeah, but I think I'm going to change mine to
I
fast.
set mine to fast. I want to see, and there's nothing there now. So what that basically does is it steps you in one circle in towards the more frequent builds of Windows 10. So there's probably a build or two a day that gets done and compiled in the operating system group. I remember they did some pictures or videos showing the servers that do that kind of stuff. But so you have the option to get in a little closer to those quicker builds, and then if you don't want to run that risk, then you don't. I think I ran a little poll on my website, and right now it's running about 70% of people said they're going to jump on the fast. that are testing Windows 10. People want to see new stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's why there's 1 million people that have downloaded and signed up for Windows Insider already. People love seeing new stuff. That's what I was so envious about before I became an MVP or a beta tester even. I used to be very envious of the guys who were beta testing Windows because they got to see the cool stuff before it was out.
Right.
And then I got on betas myself. Of course, my first beta was Windows Vista, which was not a real good, pleasant experience.
No, not at all.
It was bad, and then it got reset. But and then Windows 7 was very different. The beta was not a private beta; it was a public preview. And Windows 10 is the same thing. And this is the thing about Windows 10. A lot of people might have read some stories last week about Windows 10 being a keylogger. There was this because of the terms of service. When you sign up to be a preview person for Microsoft with Windows 10, you're basically agreeing to allow them to collect telemetry from your system about how you use Windows 10, how Windows 10 runs, what hardware it's on, all these kind of things. And plus, as you saw, we talked about in the interface, you get asked questions every once in a while about how you like doing that or didn't like doing that. Well, first off, Windows 10 is not doing key logging. It's not logging every keystroke you do. Windows 10 is doing will report telemetry and report data to Microsoft for how you use the system and how we physically. It's why they made the changes they said they made in Windows 8. If you roll down, go down to the one, just scroll down the page a little bit. And it is the there you go, the build process. That's Windows 10 technical preview. I'm pointing at the screen as if you can see me. Sorry.
There you go.
This was the post I did after installing 9860 that kind of walked through what that physical process was like. And like I mentioned earlier, the thing that kind of caught me off guard was this dark moment on my computer after the first reboot. There was no screens, the computer lights are on, and my disk drive, there you go, those are perfect. The slow build ring and the fast build ring. So if you open up the second image there, yeah, there you go, because this shows both of them. So you can see Canary are daily builds. After Canary validates a build, it goes out to the operating system group. Then once they validate it, it goes out to Microsoft. Anybody in Microsoft can connect to the servers there on Microsoft campus and get that build of Windows 10. And before, it used to be another element of testing that would happen, but now the Windows Insiders Fast will get it after the Microsoft group does, and then once it's validated through us, it will go out to the people who choose to go slow and get slower builds. So the Insider Fast may see different builds that eventually won't necessarily go to the slow folks. So it's a little riskier. There's a chance there for things to be a little more unstable, but you can see it's gone through 2 or 3 rings of testing before it hits that level. So it will be a fairly solid build. And if you go read the Blogging Windows blog, they're blogging there about the issues or known issues and things you might run into, problems. Again, this is not people are using it as a daily driver. Don't get me wrong. I'm using it as a daily driver, but it's not my only system. I've got a backup in case it goes hard, especially if it's a production system.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure.
It's impressive, though. I got to tell you, after 2 years of Windows 8 and 8.1, watching them update these apps on a weekly basis now on phone, on desktop, it's a Microsoft we just have never seen before. And this process they're using to do in-build upgrades and updates like they did from 9841 to 9860 is the future of how we're going to update Windows. Windows 10 is the last significant release of Windows, according to Microsoft. And all we will see from that point forward are incremental updates. And so we won't have to be getting used to a whole new interface. And this is the interface that Microsoft has bet the bank on. This is what we'll see on Xbox, phone, Internet of Things devices that are 2 inches screen, all the way up to the great big perceptive pixel screens, the 80 inchers. And it's quite amazing to see this happen. And you know what? The public is buying that. Because think of today's in Microsoft's financial earnings. There's my wife saying hello.
Oh, very nice.
It
really threw you off, didn't it?
People are buying this. People want again, it's the same thing we
Yeah.
felt doing betas, and before we got into betas and people were doing betas. People love to be on the cutting edge, and that's what folks are embracing about this Windows 10. I think that's why there's so many people, and there's so many people involved in it. I mean, it's just unreal. Could this have happened under Steve Ballmer?
No.
I don't think so either.
No, I
think
think
Satya Nadella was the opportunity to kind of break with the old school and take it in a whole new direction, and it's amazing. And when you listen to those financials today about how Xbox One is doing and Xbox in general, Surface is already profitable. It took Xbox like 6 years to become profitable. Surface is already there, and there's Microsoft building hardware to highlight and feature its OSs now.
Yeah,
so,
no, I think it's this. They're moving at just speeds we have never seen before. So
it used to be every 3 years before an OS came out.
I know. It's pretty cool.
I'm excited about this build and Windows 10 itself. We're expecting it sometime next October, and then after the first of the year, they're going to implement some of the consumer aspect of things. This early stuff is built pointing towards enterprise, but we should see Continuum and the consumer side of things, more touch enhancements come in the new year.
Very cool. Well, Rich, thanks for taking an hour with me.
Pleasure,
I appreciate it. If I ask you to come back in January, maybe we should time that for the release of the, some of the
consumer preview. Sure.
Yeah, and let's get a couple weeks. I like getting a couple weeks into it because you really, those launch night's cool, but you don't know anything, right?
But you don't know much. Yeah.
I like going 2 or 3 weeks after the fact. So I'll stay in touch with you, and we'll figure out a way to bring you back in here in January, early February sometime, and talk through that. But you did a great job of covering everything. This is the best overview we've done on Windows in a long time on this. And, of course, you can catch all of Rich's work over at Windows Observer, all one word, windowsobserver.com. It's got a podcast as well. I'd recommend if you're a listener of this show, you'll like that one as well. And so you'll want to head out, get that downloaded, get that subscribed, and listen to it as well. I've got to rush off and get to another podcast in Australia. I will remind you, though, use our Amazon links if you get a chance, amazon.com/theaverageguy.tv. No, the other one won't get you there. theaverageguy.tv/Amazon, or the averageguy.tv/Amazon CA gets you John Zadler, the guy that was just here. Yeah, we're funding some stuff through that affiliate link for him so he can buy it and hack it. So if you're in Canada, if you're in the U.S., don't do this, okay, because it won't work. You can't buy Canadian stuff in the U.S. Only Canadian residents, theaverageguy.tv/Amazon CA. You guys should remember that. Those proceeds will go to John Zadler, and he's going to hack on stuff as well. This is a reminder, if you're a podcaster and you're interested in watching us on Saturday mornings, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern, Ask the Podcast Coach, Dave Jackson and myself, just talking about how to do podcasting and all the things that go into it. So it's always a fun thing to do. Rich, thanks again, and with that, we'll call it a wrap.
With you again, Jim. Thanks.
You bet. Good seeing you. We're going to see you in a week.
In about a week and a half. We'll see you in Seattle at some.
No, we'll see you in Seattle for sure. We'll make sure that we get together for some good chats. And I'll be interested in seeing the rig that you bring as far as podcasting goes.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Maybe spend some time getting an interview from you.
Superb.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for coming out tonight, guys. That'll be it. Remember, you can catch us live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. Good night, everybody.